This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Right, everybody, I hope you're all doing fantastic. Obviously, I'm doing something a little bit different as opposed to the usual boxing videos. They will continue as always, but with World Cup fever only a couple of days away, I want to give you my greatest ever starting 11. I want to give you a substitutes bench as well and a manager, so a bit of a fantasy football if you like, players from around the world. My criteria is quite simple, must be retired. So the likes of Messi, Ronaldo, obviously you're not going to be in this team. Had they be retired? Yes, of course. But when it comes to football, I've always been into football ever since I was a kid. Some of the first games I remember was in about 1986. Of course, I vaguely remember the England-Argentina hand of God thing from Maradona and whatever. From 1990, I was really into football. I'll be out playing it with my school pals. I'll be reading books on it, the sticker albums, videos, DVDs, you name it. Historical stuff, watching all kinds of players. So I'm going to give you my greatest ever 11. Of course, you're all going to disagree with what my 11 is, as everybody would, of course, much like pound for pound list in boxing. It is subjective, but everybody's going to have a different list, okay? But I'm quite interested more so as to what you lot say in the comment section about who your 11 would be. Anyway, I'm doing a 4-3-3 position, or formation, sorry, and goalkeeper, difficult one, but I went with Gordon Banks. Is there a little bit of bias in me because I'm English? Maybe, but of course other contenders like a Peter Schmeichel, a Buffon, and a Pat Jennings, and many others, but I went with Gordon Banks. Gordon Banks, legend for Leicester and Stoke, but for England, 73 caps for England. 1966 World Cup winner. 1968 European Cup, 3rd place. Phenomenal goalkeeper, well ahead of his time. He really, really was. Anyway, that's my choice. Again, maybe you'll have somebody different. At left back, I went with Paolo Maldini. In my opinion, the best left back football has ever produced. That's my honest opinion on it. Legend for AC Milan. In fact, I think he stayed his entire career at AC Milan. Of course, he's the father of Cesar, the son of Cesar. Cesar was Paolo Maldini's father. But for Italy, 126 caps for Italy. That's a lot, right? 1994 World Cup finalist. So, of course, he gets the runners-up medal. And 1990 3rd place in the World Cup as well. Now, this was a time when Italy were a decent team. They're very, very solid. Of course, they had the likes of Roberto Baggio and so forth and so on. But Paolo Maldini was always very, very professional. He was captain of Italy for a while. He was captain for AC Milan. Always professional. Phenomenal left back. He really, really was. Anyway, Paolo Maldini, my left back. Now, at right back, I chose Franz Beckenbauer. Now, I know he wasn't a right back. He was a midfielder for a while. And then, of course, a centre back. Now, my granddad used to speak about Franz Beckenbauer quite a bit. So I had loads of influence from him, even though he was kind of anti-Germany for quite some time, obviously because of the war. My granddad was part of World War II in that. But for me, the bits that I've seen of Franz Beckenbauer, an absolute rock. And again, just look at his record. Now, I'll put him at right back, and I know he's like a midfielder / centre back. Centre back, of course, is really where he made his name. But because he's had time in midfield, that tells me he can run forward, not only defend, but he can assist as well, which is what I think that wing back should do. But 103 caps for West Germany. Of course, it's before the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. So from 1990, Germany were collective. So this is pre that. So for West Germany, 103 caps. 1966 World Cup runner-up, of course, opposition to England. 1970, 3rd place. 1974, he wins the World Cup as a player as well. And 1972 wins the European Cup as a player as well. Phenomenal player for Bayern Munich, but even as manager as well. He managed Germany to win the World Cup in 1990 and got the runner-up in 1986. So phenomenal all round, right? So I really, really wanted Franz Beckenbauer in the team, but there's a reason why I put him on the right as opposed to the centre. Speaking of which, my centre-backs. First one will be West Ham legend and England legend, Sir Bobby Moore. 108 caps for England. 1966, World Cup winner. 1968, European third place. So exactly the same as Gordon Banks as far as achievements are concerned with England. But Bobby Moore, when people spoke about Bobby Moore, again, this is like a before my time, he was. But when people speak about Bobby Moore, it's always with the highest respect. Even Pele, arguably one of the greatest players of all time, some say the greatest player of all time, said that Bobby Moore was the most challenging defender to try and get past. He was like a rock. He was impossible. And that's coming from Pele. Again, for those of you who like movies, Bobby Moore, of course, was in a movie alongside Pele and Sylvester Stallone. A lot of you will know about that one. Anyway, to finish off the back four, may cause a little controversy with this one, I want Matthias Sammer of Germany. Borussia Dortmund and Stuttgart legend, but for Germany, about 74 caps in total. Again, he was playing for East Germany up until 1990. Then, of course, played for full Germany and got like 51 caps there. So about 74 caps in total. But 1996, he wins the European Cup. Again, a lot of us will remember that. Obviously, he played against England in 1996. In 1992, got the European Cup runner-up as well, he did. But his performances, especially around 95, 96, 97, won him the Ballon d'Or. And for a defender, that's quite rare at times, isn't it? But for him, he was absolutely phenomenal. Centre-back, sweeper, midfielder. He's pretty much like an all-round player, but an absolute rock. He really is. Now, so that's pretty much my back four. Again, I know some people will say that, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Laurent Blanc, and Jaap Stam, and the list goes on and on. But for me, that's my back four. I'll get into substitutes in a bit, and of course the manager. For midfield, Luis Figo. Again, legend for club level, for quite a few teams, Real Madrid, Barcelona and co. But for Portugal, this is pre-Cristiano Ronaldo. So this is a Portuguese time, a team that's decent, but not quite what it's been over like the last few years. So he was dragging Portugal through quite a few games. And again, at club level, especially with his partnership with Zidane, them two were phenomenal together. But for Portugal, 127 caps and 32 goals for Portugal. 2004 European Cup runner-up. Again, as I said, this was a Portuguese team that was decent. It was good, but made all the better because of Luis Figo, in my opinion. So Luis Figo in there. Alongside him will be his clubmate, or at least while at Real Madrid, in Zinedine Zidane. So Real Madrid, Juventus and co. But with Zinedine Zidane at international level for France, 108 caps with 31 goals. 1998 World Cup winner. 2006 World Cup finalist. So he gets a runners-up medal in that one. And in 2000, the European Cup winner. A lot of you would, of course, be very, very familiar with Zidane. His skills, his defensive skills, his attacking, his assists, everything, all-round skills on another level. Be very, very hard to not put in a Zidane in your midfield. Now, I went with Johan Cruyff in midfield as well. And I know he's an attacking midfielder / somewhat striker, I suppose you could say. But I really, really wanted him in the team. I did. So I put him there because, again, much like with Figo, with Portugal back in those days, Johan Cruyff for Holland was dragging Holland through games. Again, it was a decent team, but of course this is pre the likes of Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten and Ruud van Nistelrooy and Mark Overmars and co. Johan Cruyff was a phenomenal player. A lot of the flair players that you see today, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi and everything, well, he was the one that pretty much started the flair football. Step overs, the back heels, all that kind of stuff. He was the one who started all that. But anyway, legend for Ajax and Barcelona as a player and as a manager as well for Ajax and Barcelona. But for Holland, 48 games, 33 goals. So his goals per game ratio is on another level, that is for sure. In 1974, World Cup runner-up. Again, as I said before, this is a Dutch team that wasn't really revered the way it was maybe 10, 15 years later. Okay, so a lot of it was down to Johan Cruyff. It really was. 1976 European Cup third place as well. Now, I'm not saying that Holland had bad players, not at all, but he was certainly the standout. So that's my midfield. Again, it was quite difficult because obviously a lot of people will be coming up with the names of Roy Keane and Paul Gascoigne and so many others, right? Like a David Platt, Brian Robson. But anyway, that's my midfield. As far as attacking is concerned, I went with attacking midfielder, Diego Maradona. Left-footed, of course. 91 caps for Argentina, 34 goals. And of course, one of those goals was the infamous Hand of God, which is when I pretty much started watching football, right? I remember my dad going mental about it. But Maradona, aside from that, again, listen, had Gary Lineker had done that for England against Argentina, we'll all be celebrating, wouldn't we? And that's the reality of it. But yeah, most English people look at Maradona and go, prick. But phenomenal talent. Some people would say arguably the greatest player that ever lived. Many people do. If not, he's certainly part of the conversation. But 91 caps for Argentina, 34 goals. 1986 World Cup winner. Again, part of it was at the cost of England for that handball. But in 1990, World Cup runner-up. So again, he took Argentina to the final. But again, he was part of a very good team at times as well, like Ricky Villa and Ozzy Ardiles and co. But he was phenomenal. But also at club level as well. Boca Juniors, Barcelona, Napoli. He was absolutely phenomenal. In fact, a friend of mine, when I was a kid, actually ran from Milton Keynes all the way to London just to meet him. That's how much of a big star he was as a player. Anyway, that's Diego Maradona. As far as the out-and-out strikers are concerned, this may cause a little controversy, but I'll explain why. Gabriel Batistuta. Batistuta, phenomenal striker. He really was. His goals per game ratio was on another level. For Argentina, for club level as well, for Fiorentina, for Roma. But for Argentina, of course, 78 games, 56 goals. Again, this was an Argentinian squad. This is when it's in the transitional period, if you like, where Maradona is coming to an end and Lionel Messi isn't quite on the scene yet. Okay, so there's like a bit of a gap where Argentina weren't as feared as what they have been. But yeah, Batistuta was scoring goals for fun at country and club level. He really was. 1991 Copa America winner, as in 1993 as well, and in 1992 the FIFA Confederations Cup. At World Cup level, okay, they weren't doing that great. But again, as I said, it wasn't exactly a stacked team at that time, but Batistuta was always there. Always there. Now, to partner Batistuta, I chose Pele. I mean, how can you not have Pele? Again, arguably the greatest player of all time, if not certainly in the conversation for a lot of people. Spent most of his career at club level in his home of Brazil, at Santos, 636 goals. Games with 618 goals. So that's almost a goal every game. Phenomenal. Of course, he finished off his career in America for, a good couple of years. But for Brazil, international level, 92 games, 77 goals. Of course, he made the overhead kick famous. And as far as honours are concerned, for Brazil, he wins the World Cup 3 times with Brazil. 1958, 1962, and 1970. Didn't win in 66. Why? Because England won it. But Pele was phenomenal. I've seen so much footage of Pele. I'm sure a lot of you have as well. Phenomenal player. So that is my 11. So just a quick recap of my goalkeeper, Gordon Banks. Defenders, Franz Beckenbauer, Bobby Moore, Matthias Sammer, Paolo Maldini. In midfield, Luis Figo, Zinedine Zidane, Johan Cruyff. And up front, Maradona, Batistuta and Pele. So that's all of them 11. In some ways, kind of looking at that, really, that 11, maybe I should have swapped Maradona and Johan Cruyff around. Really, because Maradona is, of course, naturally a left-footed player, which I'm sure a lot of you are already thinking before I've just mentioned it here. Now, as far as substitutes are concerned, again, very difficult because there's so many players in there. I mean, there's absolutely so many. But goalkeeper Gianluca Buffon, phenomenal. Parma, Italy, wherever. Franco Baresi as well, AC Milan, Italy. Defence, midfield, Paul Gascoigne, Newcastle, Tottenham, Middlesbrough. Played in Italy for a while, didn't he, as well? But England, phenomenal. For me, he's probably one of the greatest players ever. Unfortunately, at times he let himself down with his off-field antics and whatever else, but Paul Gascoigne for sure is on my substitutes bench, along with Ferenc Puskás for Hungary. Again, go check out his record. His goals per game ratio is phenomenal. Really is. And of course, I went with the original Ronaldo from Brazil, the number 9. Again, goals per game ratio on the level for Barcelona, Inter Milan, Brazil, you name it. So that is my starting 11. That's my substitutes. Now, as far as manager is concerned, just to give a little bit of thumb in the eye to the English FA, Brian Clough, the greatest manager to have never managed a national team. But what he did at club level with the likes of Nottingham Forest and everything was phenomenal. As a player as well, his goals per game ratio was on another level, by the way, with Middlesbrough and Sunderland. Again, that's my neck of the woods. Obviously, I'm from Newcastle. But I mean, that's not why I chose him. If I'd have been a little bit more biased, I'd have went with Bobby Robson, to be fair, which I was going to. But for me, Brian Clough, put him in charge of this team. Come on now. Anyway, that's my greatest ever 11. I said, you're not going to agree with it at all. Of course you're not. But hopefully it gives you all like a little bit of a history. Maybe you didn't know who a couple of these players were or too much about them. Drop me yours. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.